"Why don't you just vanish?" my stepdaughter shouted during a heated argument. Her mother had jumped in, siding with her, telling me we'd all be better off without me. I didn't say a word. I just packed my bags. The next morning, my phone blew up with 15 missed calls. Something felt off the moment I stepped into the quiet house that Sunday morning. The silence was heavy, but it wasn't just that. As I looked around, it dawned on me. The family photos were gone. I approached the large picture over the mantel from our trip to Cape Cod last summer. The photo was still there, but I wasn't in it. Every picture of me had been removed, leaving awkward spaces in the family moments we'd shared over the last 2 years. I stood there, my coffee growing cold in my hand. Then I heard Sarah's footsteps upstairs. She paused at the top of the stairs before slowly heading downstairs, phone in hand, avoiding eye contact. "Morning," I said, keeping my voice neutral. She didn't respond. The silence between us was heavy. 2 years. That's how long I'd been in Sarah's life. 2 years of bonding over weekend hikes, helping with math homework, and trying to be there for her without pushing too much. At 15, she had started to pull away, and I thought it was just typical teenage rebellion. But it felt different this time. It started last week when I tried to help her with her art project. She'd been struggling, and I thought I'd offer some support. "Stop pretending to care about my work. You're not my real dad." Her words stung, but it was the tone that made me pause. It was sharp, deliberate. Emma didn't say anything when she heard it, and that silence, it felt like she was choosing sides. Tension built up all week. Small things like Sarah leaving dishes out, doors slamming, and conversations stopping when I entered the room. Emma, too, began pulling away, dismissing my concerns by saying, "She's just being a teenager, Tyler. Don't make it about you." Then last night, everything exploded. Sarah was texting during dinner, breaking one of our rules. When I gently reminded her, she slammed her phone down. "Why are you always on my back? Why can't you just leave me alone?" "Sarah," I began, but she cut me off. "Stop pretending you care. I already have a dad." She stood up, chair scraping the floor. "Why don't you just disappear? Nobody asked you to try this hard. It's pathetic." I looked at Emma, expecting something, support, a calming word. Instead, she said quietly, "Maybe we'd be better off if you did." The words lingered in the air, thick like smoke. Memories flashed through my mind. The day Sarah first laughed at my joke, the night she cried when her first breakup hit her hard, the smile Emma gave me when Sarah asked me to help her pick out her prom dress. "Okay," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "What?" Sarah challenged, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "If that's how you both feel, okay." I walked upstairs, packed a few things, and went downstairs. I could hear them whispering, but no one came up to stop me. As I gathered my things, I noticed my hands weren't shaking. I felt unnervingly calm. When I went to leave, Emma was standing in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. "So, you're just leaving?" "You said we'd be better off," I replied, checking for my keys. "I'm respecting that." She stopped, caught between pride and regret. I grabbed my bag. "I'll be at Michael's. I'll figure out something more permanent soon." I could hear them downstairs, but no one followed me as I drove to Michael's place. Michael was a good friend, the kind who didn't ask questions. He gave me his guest room without hesitation. This morning, when I checked my phone, there were 15 missed calls, 8 from Emma, 5 from Sarah, and 2 from my sister, Rachel. I haven't listened to them yet. I'm sitting here in Michael's guest room, watching the morning traffic below, trying to make sense of everything. Then my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Sarah. After everything, I found myself staring at her name, unsure whether I should respond. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't walking away, it's knowing whether you should walk back. Update 1. Thank you all for the support on my last post. I didn't expect such an overwhelming response. To address the most common questions, yes, I've read all the messages, but no, I haven't replied to any of them yet. And yes, I'm still at Michael's. This morning started like the others. I was pretending to focus on work while actually staring at my phone. But then Michael dropped a bombshell over breakfast. Jason's back in town, he said, sliding his phone across the table. There, on Facebook, was a photo of Sarah's biological father, Jason, at a local restaurant 2 weeks ago. The same Jason who hadn't been around for years. The same Jason who hadn't paid child support in over 2 years. The timing of everything suddenly clicked. I scrolled through the messages again. Emma's texts had changed from angry to concerned. The latest one read, "There's something you need to know. It's about Sarah. Please call me." Rachel showed up soon after, coffee in hand. She dropped her usual blunt commentary. "You look like hell." "Thanks, sis," I muttered, running my hand through my hair. "Did you know Jason's been messaging Sarah?" Rachel asked, her tone serious. "He's been promising to fix everything this time." I checked Sarah's Instagram, something I rarely do. There, in her latest post, was a picture of her with Jason. The caption, "Real family time." Her friends' comments were full of hearts and praise, oblivious to the history that lay beneath. Rachel must have seen the shift in my expression. "What are you thinking?" "I think it's time to stop being silent," I said slowly. Update 2. The meeting with Sarah's guidance counselor, Miss Carter, opened my eyes to things I wasn't prepared for. Sarah had submitted paperwork to withdraw from all of her AP classes yesterday. She was planning to transfer to a school in California next semester. Ms. Carter mentioned that Sarah had asked her to send transcripts to schools out there. I checked my phone again. There was Jason's big announcement in our family group chat. I was starting to put the pieces together. When I asked Emma, she immediately confessed. "Jason asked me for money. He's telling Sarah that if she invests in his new startup, she'll be set for college." I couldn't believe it. Jason, the same man who drained us dry with empty promises years ago. I spent the rest of the day digging into his business online, finding nothing but dead ends. By evening, I was ready. Emma and I talked for hours, really talked. And when Sarah came in late that night, I had a plan. The next day, I was at the restaurant where Jason had planned his big announcement dinner. Before he could make his pitch, I stood up and calmly said, "Before we continue, there are some people who'd like to join us." 2 federal agents and a state investigator walked in. Jason's face went from confident to terrified in seconds. It turns out he wasn't just running one scam. There were 7 different fraudulent schemes across 3 states. And Sarah had unwittingly helped him. By the end of the evening, Jason was in handcuffs, looking at 20 years in prison. As the investigators led him away, Sarah stood tall beside me. "This is my real father," she said firmly, taking my hand. Final update. The aftermath of Jason's arrest has been intense. News coverage. Victim statements. But the real victory wasn't watching him go down. It was seeing Sarah reclaim her future. She rejoined her classes, got back into her extracurriculars, and even started a support group for others affected by Jason's schemes. That night, Sarah came to me for help with her college essays. "I've got a pretty unique story now," she said. "How many people can write about taking down their fraudster dad?" Emma and I are in counseling. There's a lot of healing to do. But watching Sarah reclaim her strength and seeing her smile again, that's the real reward. This evening, we're having dinner together, just the 3 of us. Sarah's making her famous pasta sauce. Nothing special, just the kind of normal family stuff I thought we might never have again. But I was wrong.